This is our 6th session, and yeah, it's going to be a bit different. Leave the microphones open, and I will be making some questions because I don't know if you have realized, but these sessions are also about trying to make you think and giving you the power to troubleshoot problems, to design your own garden and to take decisions. So yeah, that's why I want to make it a bit more interactive. But don't feel that you need to answer. Yep. So we're going to talk a little bit about how things are at this moment of the year, what we have been doing, some extra tips for planting that I think that they can be useful, and then today I'm going to talk about pesky pests like this. So it's a long presentation actually today, but I hope you like it. I think it's going to be interesting. So what things are going on at this time of the year, middle March? We may have some seeds germinating. We may have some seedlings growing. And we are getting ready to plant outside. So yeah, so we keep an eye on the garden. How is the ground doing? We are removing slugs and yeah, all of these things. So all of these things are happening right now. And my first question is, do you remember some of the tips that I gave or tricks that are important when you are growing seedlings? Can you tell me a couple of things? They are very logical, very straightforward.
One of the things that I personally remember is that the seeds are very small, and you said to put them closer to the surface rather than deep in.
They are more things to help them to grow. To taking care of them.
To put them outside when it's sunny, so the wind actually make them stronger as well, and then they get the sun.
Yeah, but this is when they are like all seedlings, not when they are very, 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 very small.
Did you tell a joke? And then they like to be. Am I making that up? Were you soaking the seed?
Yeah, that is one. Yeah.
You mean at the beginning before they even grow?
Well, since they are very, very small till they are a bit bigger, and then you start to harden up.
And then put them, if we didn't have any sunshine, put them near a radiator, something warm, or is that too far ahead?
That was more for germinating them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So before that.
Yeah. Well, no worries. But yeah, you say one. The water, and it is better from below, so it is better if you soak them. They need light, so better close to the window, and then you turn them regularly. Do you remember? Because they incline to the light. So we mentioned that it's better to turn them so they grow to every side. Aeration, otherwise they start to grow mold in the ground. And then yes, hardening. When they are a bit, not when they are very, very, very small, but when they are a bit bigger and you are preparing them to plant them outside, hardening. Yeah, so
at the moment I do two things with mine. One is I turn them every day, one day or another, and I have learned actually to water them. I have a container underneath, and I do water them from underneath because within the house I've realized how dry it was getting. Now, where they are right now, I'm putting them outside every time it's sunny, or I did a little bit this morning. And I was wondering, maybe that's too soon because I haven't transplanted them anywhere yet. I've just left them in the original little pot.
That is fine. If you want, you can, later on when we finish the presentation, you can bring them, you can show them to me, or I can show you how mine are when I start to harden them. We can talk a little bit. It's a bit, you have to get the hang of it. It's not super straightforward.
The parsley, for instance, I can see that I've got the initial little leaves that are just coming out now.
That's too soon. That is too soon. So normally you harden them before you plant them outside. Yeah.
So when they have those the real leaves, then that's when you transfer them into another pot, or do you put them just outside?
I think that we are going to talk about this at the end of the presentation. Yeah, and we go, and I show you because I have some plants at home, so I will show you at which stage they are and when I will plant them outside or not. I will, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. So in February, if you remember, I have been sending you information about what has been going on. We have broad beans, we have germinated broad beans, spinach, lettuce, peas just for the shoots, onion, salad onion, early brassicas like the broccoli and all of this, radish, parsley, coriander and dill, so the first herbs. And then with warmth, so inside with a lot of warmth, we could have started aubergine, pepper and chili. And then outside, we could have planted broad beans and garlic. Garlic normally is planted in December, but we could have planted it also in February. Yeah, garlic, you can plant it basically whenever you want. And then in March, I have been saying to you this already, but it's like in February, basically, plus peas, more peas. Beetroot, we can add beetroot in March. From mid-month, we can start tomatoes, melon at the end of the month. So, but then, yeah, not right now, maybe in 1 week or 1 week and a half, we can start tomatoes and melon. And this is because they grow quite quickly. So it makes no sense starting them too early in the season. And then outside, we can plant in March broad beans, garlic again. After mid-month, lettuce, spinach, peas, onion, salad onion, early brassicas. So it's basically the same. The only new thing is the first early potatoes. At the end of March, we can plant outside the first early potatoes. Yes. But still, we need to wait a little bit to see how the spring is coming, because some springs it starts warm and then suddenly it gets very cold, or suddenly we have a frost. So it's better, not be too anxious and wait a bit how the spring is. Otherwise, you plant everything outside and then suddenly there is a frost and everything is dead. So we need to keep an eye on the weather. Now, next question. I want you to think, what is in common in these plants that are in red? What do you think? I know that we haven't talked a lot about each plant, but if you have some experience with some of them, like with lettuce, or with peas, or with herbs, or with potatoes, what do you think they can have in common?
Are they easier? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No. Just do a brainstorm. Whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah, because to me, I wouldn't ever consider growing melon. That sounds really hard. I don't know why it does. This doesn't sound like something I know many people in the UK to grow. But the other ones, they're things that I've heard. The ones that are in red are things that I know people talk about growing these ones more.
Can be. Martin, any idea?
That might just be me.
It's a good point. Martin, do you have any idea?
Well, I was thinking as well, they're better probably for the UK climate, but I didn't think coriander was something from here, so I'm not too sure.
Okay, I'm going to say I know it's a difficult. I know it's a difficult question. Mohet didn't know it either. So these are plants that start, grow, the crop finishes, and then you can plant another thing in the same place.
Oh,
For instance, peas. You plant them, you collect the peas, and then the plant is done. So you can remove the plant and plant another thing.
Oh, right.
The potatoes the same. You say everything. Yeah, and it is true. Maybe they are easier. It is true because they have a shorter development period. So yeah, totally true. Because if you have a plant that lasts for many, many, many months, chances are that you kill the plant at some point or you have more problems. So it is true. These ones are easier. It can, perfectly, Okay, and I wanted to mention this because if we want to maximize the efficiency of our garden, these are important things to take into account. I have mentioned it before, but I just thought that, if we make this more interactive, probably you will retain better the information. So, for instance, here in the left, we have radishes. The radishes, the crop takes several weeks only. So it is perfectly viable having radishes, and once they finish, you crop them and you plant your tomato. In this way, in a very small space, you are maximizing the production. So this is one way. You have plants that have a shorter development time, and then you put another one that has longer. And tomato needs more warmth than radishes, so it makes a lot of sense. Another way to maximize efficiency, and this, well, it is putting the things with a shorter development time easy to access, and then the ones that take longer far from your reach, because in this way you are like forgetting about the ones that are going to take longer, but you have close to you the ones that are going to come out quickly, so you can go and pick a little bit and you can keep an eye on them, and then you can easily change them for another. So yeah, this is a good way, just to remind yourself, basically, because if you put something that you need to replace very far from you, like in the bottom of your garden, chances are that you will forget about it. So it's a practical thing that I realized myself. Another way is putting plants with shorter development time interplanted between others that take longer. In this case, we can have onions on the sides, and in the middle we have lettuce. So you know that the onions will stay there for months, and then the lettuce will grow, you will crop them, you will remove them, you will plant another thing. So they are sharing the same space. They don't, one thing doesn't like stop the sun from another, so you make it more productive. Yeah, so I wanted to explain to you that. Now, some extra tips for planting outside. We saw some, I'm going to repeat some of them, but I thought that because we are approaching the time when we need to start to plant in the garden, so you think a little bit more about them. Spacing, it is important. In Spanish, we call it planting frame. So you have to think like if you have like an invisible frame around your plant, you shouldn't put the plants too close together, but sometimes there is no need to put them too separate either. So the best is going in internet, or I recommend you, I don't know if you can see me, I recommend you this book that it costs £2 in Amazon and it's amazing, but you can find this information easily in internet with a distance that you should put a little bit between plants.
I can't see the book, sorry.
It's the book you have. You bought the book, Susan.
Oh, the book I've already got. It's a good book.
Yeah, isn't it? It's because it goes to the point.
Like you say, I only paid a few pounds for it.
Yeah, and it's fantastic, and it really goes to the point. So in that book, you have these spaces as well. So it is.
It's the Vegetable and Herb Express book you mentioned last week.
Yeah, that one.
Last time.
Yeah. In that one you can see, but in internet you can have lists like this. Like this is a copy paste I took from a webpage in internet, so you can easily find it. There are many. And it's to give you an idea of how much space you need to put between the plants of the same species and between different species. Hardening, yeah, we will talk more about this if it's not clear, Martin, at the end of the presentation. But here you can have a look. Do you see the seedlings? They are relatively big. So normally you do this 1 week before you are going to plant them outside. Around 1 week before you are going to plant them outside. You start to put them outside for several hours. Maybe the first day they are outside only 1 hour. The next day they are 2 hours. Maybe by the end of the week they already spend the night outside, even if it's not in the ground. But we will talk more at the end. But yeah, this is very important. And me, what I do as well, if I'm working from home, not today because it's very windy. So if it is very windy, the wind can twist a little plant. But if I'm at home, it is a nice day, it is not very hot. Even if they are very small, I put them outside in the sun for a little bit of time. But I keep an eye on them. If you put plants that are very, very small outside, they can get burned, or yeah. So you really need to keep an eye. The best thing is trying and observing them. So you will get the touch of when it's too much, when it's not too much. You can, when you plant them, you can protect the seedlings, especially at the beginning. And these are just one of the ways with a bottle without the bottom. I do this a lot. Transparent bottles, please, so they receive the sun, with plastic. Or here that you see at the right is called flea. It protects them from it's warmth, even if it's only a cloth and it's not like a complete layer of plastic. It gives them some warmth and they allow the light to pass, and it also protects them from some insects, so it is useful. So these are different ways. Remember, we talk about this, that you need to plant them deep. This I think it's a courgette. This courgette is too much outside, so the best is planting them till the line, so the stem is protected. Otherwise, they may bend. If the stem is attacked, it may kill the plant. So in general, try to plant them deep. Try to respect the roots. This can be a bit, it's like fiddling around a little bit, but yeah, try to be careful. The more root you allow them to have, the more the chances to survive. And it's especially important the tap root, like you can see here in the picture, because it's the one that they use to go deep and to attract water from the ground. So be careful when you are, don't just pull them, like as I explained, go with a pencil from below and pull them slowly with the pencil up. Yeah, make the soil wet so the plants suffer less. Okay. Yeah, so there's some more tips about planting. But yeah, if you have any question or you want to go deeper, we can talk more about it at the end of the presentation. And now I wanted to talk a bit about pesky pests. And I say pests like this with this symbol because the way we see pests is from our anthropocentric point of view. Because if you think about a slug, or this is a white cabbage butterfly, they are just animals that they are doing their life cycle. So they are pests for us, but by themselves they are just animals. They are not trying to disturb us at all. So we call them like this, but yeah. So I'm giving, I know that I'm saying this maybe from more my biology or ecologist point of view, but yeah, they are not disturbing us on purpose. So we think them about pests from our point of view. And then sorry, I wanted to say one way of dealing with pests without putting pesticides everywhere is when you try to understand them, you try to understand their life cycle and what they need from your plants, then you can, and how they relate with the rest of the environment, then you can try to tackle them without putting like indiscriminate pesticides everywhere. So I want us to learn to think a little bit to them as animals, not only as pests, if you understand what I mean. So one of the biggest problems and one of the reasons why we need these insecticides and pesticides everywhere is because our agricultural system is based in monoculture. So that is when you have like an entire field, sometimes till the horizon, with the same crop. Now, if you are thinking like a mom butterfly that you want to feed your children, this is perfect. How many children you can have feeding on this? Isn't it? Like, it's the perfect setup. You are not going to put your eggs in only one in one place with only one plant. You will do it here, so you can have even several generations in the same season of larvae feeding on this, isn't it? So this monoculture agriculture has promoted the use of pesticides because of this. Now, if you think in a garden like this, when you have different species interplanted, if you're a mom butterfly, you are going to have difficulties, isn't it? You cannot just lay eggs in a row everywhere, because if you sorry, and I forgot to say this, many larvae feeds on only one type of plant. So if you have a garden with many different things, the man butterfly maybe is going to lay the eggs in that plant here and there, but it's not going to lay the eggs in everywhere, if you see what I mean. So chances are that if you have a garden with different things, maybe you lose one plant or two, but you're not going to lose all of them. Whereas the poor farmer that only has one plant and has a very big, I don't know, like a very big wave of butterflies that year, it may lose all of it. Do you see a difference? This is important. Another thing that is important, and is the reason why people rotate the crops, is because there are some, again, pests or different type of animals that stay in the soil. So they come out in spring and in summer. They do their cycle, so they put they imagine that they have stay like dormant in the soil. With the warmth, they come up. The adult lay the eggs in the plant. The larvae eat the plant or whatever, and after finishing everything, it comes back to the soil. If you put the same plant in the same place, next year the same is going to happen, because the adult learn, oh, I have food here, why I'm going to go anywhere else and just stay in the soil in the same spot. That's why if you rotate the crops, next year that animal is going to find a different plant, and it's like, oh, now I cannot eat this. So you are breaking the cycle. So it's good to rotate the crops. Now, how to do it? There are many different ways. If you check in internet, you can see that there are different ways of doing that. For instance, for potatoes can have a lot of different fungi diseases that stay in the soil. So it is better, they recommend every 2 years, change them from place or change the soil. So you can find different schemes in internet depending on what you have planted in your garden. And anyway, this is also good because, as we have talked before, different plants use different nutrients in the soil. So if you are always growing the same in one place and you are not putting enough organic matter and enough nutrients, they are going to exhaust the soil for that nutrient. So this is another reason why it's going to do rotation. Anyway, I don't think it's extremely important in our garden setting, but me, I'm doing it. Now is my third year in the garden, and for instance, I have changed the soil of the potatoes because I had some fungi diseases. Then you can have physical barriers to the disease, to the insects. And this is what I was saying before. For this butterfly, you can simply put a net around your plants, and the adult butterfly is simply not able to reach the leaves. So it's as easy as this. Then you can do companion planting. I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned that we can plant marigold with tomato. I don't know if you remember. I have said it several times before, and this is the reason why. You can see down in the left nematodes. That there are these little worms. You need a microscope to see them. And here in the middle, you can see a root of a tomato attacked by nematodes in the left and a normal root in the right. So look at the difference when the tomato is parasite and attack. So they say that by planting marigolds close to the tomatoes, like in the right, the marigolds protect the root of the tomatoes. So in some cases, as simple as this as well, you can find which companion plant can help your crop. And it looks beautiful as well, and these flowers can be good for pollinators as well, so they can fulfill several functions. Another very easy but time-consuming sometimes way of dealing with this is simply removing them. And we have talked about the slugs. Remember that we put some pots upside down, and we just go in the morning and in the evening, we turn them, we collect the slugs in the milk, in a milk bottle or somewhere, and we just move them to another place, a bit far from the garden, remember, because they can come back. So this is as easy as this. In the case of this butterfly, you can also go to your plants, in this case it's cabbage, and you go to the back of the leaves and you can remove the eggs. But again, then you need to go leaf by leaf checking for the eggs. So yeah, this normally is time consuming, but you are not using any product, nothing. Another way is favoring the natural predators of the insects that can attack your garden. And here I'm just showing some examples. Here in the left we have ladybird, and ladybirds are awesome for aphids. We will talk. Well, these three of them are good for aphids. That's why I put them. So here in the middle we have hoverfly. Hoverfly, the adult, may look like a wasp, but actually it is a fly. So they cannot really sting you or anything. If you see the head, the eyes look pretty much like a fly, and they only have two wings, whereas wasps have 4. So it is a fly. And the larvae, you can see it down. That is like an epic battle between a larvae and an aphid. The larvae eat aphids, and then the hoverfly adults, they are pollinators. So by having these two things in your garden, first you are having your plants pollinating, and they are eating the aphids. So yeah, there are only good things. This one in the right, the lacewing, is the same. The adult pollinates, and then the larvae eat the aphids. So they are only advantages. And how you can achieve that? By putting wildflowers or not wildflowers, but like borage and other plants that attract pollinators, because then you are going to attract the adult, and the adult, when it's going to see that there is food and chances of the children to survive, is going to lay the eggs. So yeah, if you have a nice a garden with different type of plants for insects, you are going to have natural predators of your pests. And now we are going to talk about products. So if you realize, I have told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways of tackling your pests before talking about products. So there are a lot of different things that you can do. It's not always thinking, oh, I have this, and then what chemical can I use to tackle it? No, there are many other different ways that you can do before. And I wanted to talk, I don't know if this is going to work. I want to talk about this specific case. I don't know if you have heard about it. It is a thing in the UK. A lot of the problems of using chemicals is that they also work in a species that you are not targeting. So, for instance, for the slugs, many people use some kind of pellets that you bought in garden centers or anything, and you spread them in your garden. But if these pellets are eaten by hedgehogs, they can die. It's not immediate. Normally, they need to be eating it for several nights. They need to eat a lot, but it is a chemical that it can bioaccumulate in their tissues. So if they keep doing it, at some point they are going to die. So this is one of the problems with chemicals. Other chemicals, maybe, okay, they kill your aphids, but they are killing also other butterflies that are good for your garden. For instance, they are good for nature or for bees. This is one of the big problems of that we are currently having with the bees, because we use a lot of chemicals that are not targeted for the pest in particular, and it affects bees. I don't know if this is going to work. I put a video. May not work. Yeah. For you to say. This is a poison hedgehog. Wait, no. So in case you came across with something like that, this is how it looks. This is why I wanted to tell you that there are many different ways of tackling pests, more than chemicals. Now, we are going to talk about different groups. One is slugs. We have seen many times now how to pick them. Just simply remove them and drop in another place at least 2 kilometers far from our garden, 1 or 2 kilometers far. But put in pots upside down. you can actually attract them. For instance, they love citrus plants, so you can put, if you use a lemon for cooking or peels from a mandarin or an orange, you can put them under the pots and they love them. They love them. I have tried myself. They really go crazy about them. So this is a good way of luring them to the pots. Another way of avoiding slugs is watering in the morning. So slugs like humidity, of course. So if you water imagine that we are in the middle of summer and you are watering during the night, chances are that you are encouraging them to go out and eat your plants. Whereas if you put water in the morning, the plants can absorb the water before it's very hot, and when it arrives, when it's the night, it is already dry, so the slugs are not going to come out. So this is another way. And then in general, slugs, apart from eating the tender leaves, they eat like debris and leaves that are dying. So if you keep your garden clean, for instance, if you have a spinach and one leaf of a spinach die, if you remove that leaf and you put it in the compost bin, you are going to keep your garden free of things that can be eaten by slugs. So you don't encourage them to be in your garden. Now, regarding pellets and things that you can use, imagine that you have a very, very big infestation of slugs, and yeah, you are getting totally nuts, and then you think, okay, I need to put pellets. Please avoid metaldehyde, because that is very, very toxic for the slugs. Now, after doing a bit of research, ferric phosphate and aluminium sulfate, it looked like is not that bad. The pellets of that is not that bad. Ferric phosphate, for instance, it just dissolves even with the rain. If it rains, they dissolve and is iron for your garden. So apparently that is the better option. But yeah, I encourage you to do a bit of research and try other methods before using pellets. Now the cabbage white butterfly. Normally, yeah, you know that you have them first because you see the adult. So you will see that in middle of spring, early summer, you are going to have a lot of them flying around. They leave these eggs that are very easy to identify. And then if you have the larvae, you are going to see the poo. Do you see the picture that is lower? The lower, this is the poo. So even if you don't see the larvae because they are green and they camouflage very well, you normally see the poo and the leaves that are chewed. So this, yeah, it give away. So to avoid them, you can put the physical barrier. You can, like the flea that we have seen before, you can flea the cloth that we have seen before. You can remove the eggs. That is quite time consuming, but you can do that. And there is an organic pesticide that is called Bacillus thuringiensis. I have it here with me in the table so I can show you after. It's a bacteria, and you mix it with water and spray the leaves. You need to spray the upper part and the lower part, and that makes the larvae have an indigestion and they die. It takes a couple of days though, but they die. And this organic pesticide, it's removed by the water. So with the rain and the sun breaks it down as well. So even if you spray it in leaves of that you are going to eat, you can do it because it will degrade at some point. In fact, it's better to put it during the night because the sun degrades it. So, and it targets not only these larvae but other type of larvae that eat the leaves. So but only the larvae. To my knowledge, it doesn't affect other things. So it's a relatively good organic pesticide if you really need to use one. Another problem that is common is the Brassicas leaf spot. Remember that Brassicas are broccolis, cabbage, all of this from that family. This what you see is fungus. Fungus normally grow in circles in leaves. Well, you can find it in different ways, but yeah, this growth is very typical of fungus. As they grow, they do like rings. If you can see, they develop rings around one center. And the best way of dealing with this is removing the leaf. You remove the leaf and you don't leave the leaf in the ground or on top of other leaves. You remove it from your garden completely. Yeah, you don't compost it. No, because we don't want this fungus to propagate to other plants. And again, I wanted to tell you, it is better if we try to understand this. So how fungus propagate? They propagate by the spores. So how we can avoid the spores to move from one plant to another? By water. So when you are, for instance, watering your plants, it is better if you don't water the leaves. It's better if you water directly on the ground. You see what I mean? So the spores don't drop from one leaf to another. In this way, you are not using any kind of chemical and you are avoiding the propagation of the fungus. So by having a little bit of knowledge about how these things work, you can avoid them without using chemicals. Yeah, so the best is prevention in this case. Another pest, the Mangold fly or leaf miner. Most of people know this as leaf miner. And it is this larvae that you can see in the left. They do tunnels in the leaves, and this of course makes the growth of the plant more difficult. This is a spinach, I think. They really like a spinach. The solution of this, like we have seen before, you take the plant, you take the leaf and you take it away far from your garden, so the larvae cannot transform in an adult and move to another leaf. You take the leaf away and you don't compost it. The next one, it's maggot. I put this picture in the right. I thought it was very nice, like interview with a pea moth maggot, because it's the same. It helped to understand the cycle of the pests, so you can deal with things better. But in this case, this is very difficult to deal with, because sometimes you see like a little hole in the pot of the pea. Sometimes you don't see anything, but when you remove the pea pod and you open them to get your peas, then you find that you have had a maggot inside and it has eaten the things. So I didn't find a good way of dealing with this. I have it every year, but I don't have it in that many pots, so it is okay. For me, it is okay. You just don't eat these peas. Sometimes they don't even eat all the peas inside of the pot. They just eat one. So it's not that terrible. Okay, this is terrible. these are very terrible. The black, the green, and the mealy aphid. The black is the first one that we see in that, I think it's an astridium that is upside down. The green is in the right, and the mealy aphid is below, in the picture below. Black and green, you can find it in different plants in your garden. The mealy aphid is very common in cabbage, broccoli, and other brassicas. They are they are bad for the plant. They weaken the plant. And what is the worst is that they can transmit other diseases like viruses, because they make a little hole in the plant to suck the sap, and in their saliva they can carry diseases. So this is the problem, that they can transmit other things to the plant. If you see in the picture of the right, do you see ants going up and down? Ants protect these aphids from predators. So it's like if they had a farm of aphids, because they like the sap that they excrete. It's called honeydew. They feed from the honeydew, so they protect the aphids. So many times, if you see that there are some ants that are very keen on one of your plants, have a look, because chances are that you have aphids. Yeah. Sorry, drinking water. So ways of tackle this. You can do physical removal. Even if I have to say that when you have fungi, it is better not to put water in the leaves. One way of dealing with aphids is actually taking your hose of water with relatively high pressure and wash your plants. I do this very often. Not with all the type of plants, obviously, but yeah. And you wash them away, because when they say that when they fall into the ground, they are not able to climb the plant back up. So it's just one way. Another way is promoting the natural enemies of the aphids, and we have seen it before. We have the ladybird, the hoverfly, and this is by putting wildflowers and other plants that can attract the adults. And then if there is no more remedy, if it is going out of your hand, you can use pyrethroids. Pyrethroids are considered an organic pesticide, and is the same. They decompose with the water and the sun. This is normally why you need to put them during the sunset, so they can act during the night. They also say about insecticidal soap. I have tried, and to me it didn't work. I have tried garlic and chili. I have tried so many things. For me, nothing has worked. Pyrethroids work, and a little bit. If you have a big infestation, in my case, they haven't worked. So the best is catching this as soon as possible. The next friend that we have is the cabbage whitefly. You may have seen this in your garden in the compost bin as well. I have a lot of them in the compost bin. In general, they are not that damaging to your garden, except with kales. They can be, apparently kales are very delicate, and you need to be careful with this one. You can physically remove them. You can just pass the thumb or a finger and remove them from the back of the leaf. And if the infestation is very, very big, you can also use pyrethroids. Normally they are on the back of the hand, and you see them flying them around. Another one is the powdery mildew, and it's a fungi as well. It looks like this, like circles. You don't see the circles growing outside like in the other one, but it's like a powder that is powder in circles. To avoid it, it's the same that we have mentioned before, not to put water in the leaves, because the same reason, the water is going to make the spores dropping into the next leaf, and then you're going to have the next leaf infected. And other ways to deal with it is by diluting baking soda, potassium bicarbonate, sulfur, milk. You can dilute them in a spray and spray your leaves. I have to say that I haven't been very successful doing this. It stayed the same basically. I have tried and it stayed the same. I don't know, maybe I didn't put enough concentration, but it hasn't really worked for me. So what I have done is, when the infestation is very, very, very bad, I just remove the leaf and I don't compost it. I remove them from the garden. Remove the leaf from the garden. One thing that people confuse sometimes, here we have the leaf of a courgette. It's the same. So some people confuse these white spots in the leaf in the left. Do you see that between the nerves there are some white spots? Some people confuse this with mildew, and it's like, no, it is not the same. If you compare it with the leaf on the right, the pattern is kind of different. So be careful with this. If you suspect that you have it, if you want, you can send me a picture. But there is many people that confuse the natural pattern of the courgette with the mildew. So be careful with this. You don't need to remove all the leaves from your poor courgette. You can send me a picture or check in internet some examples before deciding. I have left the worst for the end. This is the red spider mite. I hate them. I really, really hate them. They can propagate. The population can increase so quickly. It starts like the picture of the left. You see like some little white dots on the back of the leaf, and then one day you start to have like these like spider webs around your plants, and then from one day to another you have this infestation of red little things all over your plants, and it's horrible. The plants weakens very quickly and it dies. In my garden, I have lost every year the cucumbers because of this. I couldn't stop it. I just couldn't stop it. They say that the pyrethroids work, but nothing has worked for me. I have washed the plant, and that has helped a bit. I removed the plants physically, and this has helped a bit, but I haven't found a method of dealing with this. So the best is, again, catching it early, removing this leaf, cleaning. Yeah. Now to wrap up and to summarize, I haven't told you about all the possible pests that you can have, but we can talk about this as they come up to your garden, because we are going to continue to have meetings. So these were just the most common examples. So general advice after talking about all of this: plant wildflowers or borage or other plants that maybe you use in your kitchen that are going to have pollen, and they are going to attract adults whose larvae are going to help you. And this is as simple as planting flowers around. Interplant. So if you have a pest, the pest is not going to eat all of it, but it's going to have difficulty hopping from one plant to another. So confuse the animals that are going to feed from your garden. Good aeration, especially in the case of fungus, as we have seen. Fungus like humidity. So if there is a space between the leaves, there is air moving between the leaves, chances are that they are not going to keep the moisture as well, that well. And this is especially important for the greenhouse. Greenhouse, especially in summers or when there is sun, after you have put to water, they usually can be very humid. So it is important that if you have a greenhouse, you open it and you aerate it. Very, very important, or you can have very big infestations there. Don't water the leaves. Aim to put the water in the ground around the roots. Avoid getting the hose and making like rain. It's not good normally. Unless you have an aphid infestation, as I have said before, where you may want to wash your plants. But in general, water the ground. Yeah, and this is very important. Observe your garden. The earlier you catch an infestation, the easier it is to deal with it. So go outside. I normally do this in the morning. When the weather is nice, I drink my first coffee in the garden. So I just walk around. I check the back of some leaves here and there. You just pay attention and you see if you have a very few aphids or a very few red spider mite or a little bit of fungus here and there. Chances are that if you remove it when it's very early, you can avoid a very big problem before. So observe. And then one way of disposing of the infected parts is having of one of these things. You can burn things inside. So this is what I normally do, and then I can use the coal created in the garden, the ashes. So I don't put the infected parts in my green bin, in my compost bin, especially because my compost bin is cold. It's not a hot, so I know that it's not going to be able to kill anything. And then if I spread the compost, I'm spreading the diseases. So the best is if you just burn the things. The homework, we talked about this last time, I think. Some of your plants are going to need trailing, so you can start to think about that. The bamboos and all of this that you are going to need for your plants, your tomatoes, your beans, your peas. So you can start to think about this now before planting them into the ground or in the last pot. The next session will be half class, the same like this, half class, half chat with questions, if you like. And there are still many things to talk about: growth of plants, fertilizers, especially fertilizers that we can make ourselves, vegetable troubles in the sense of problems with nutrients. So today we have talked about problems with pests, but of course we can have problems with nutrients as well. So I want to tackle this in one of the presentations. And then fruiting and harvesting, that is interesting as well. Yeah, this calendar was wrong, I realized. I think Susan pointed out the last time. So this was the Saturday 13, on Friday 13. So I'm proposing Saturday 10th of April for the next session. So we have some weeks to go and things will have moved on a little bit. And then just to remind that the 3rd of April, I'm going to give a free balm and salve class online. I send the link in the in the email. I will send it again so you can just join for free if you want and learn to make a herbal balm and salve.